Action.
So just really chaos on the water at this point.
Danger.
This is no game. We're here to do a real job.
Adventure.
I've been around the world twice and I've seen everything 3 times.
You're listening to Sea Story.
Episode 6, One for SWCC.
I am Petty Officer First Class Robert White. I am from Frazier Park, California, and this is my sea story. So, in my line of work in the Special Warfare Combatant teams, the SWCC teams, we do a lot of training for Special Forces type operations. So we're off the coast of Long Beach, out near the oil rigs, doing training out there. We work on small craft. We work in a detachment. We'll have 2 crafts and a crew on each craft. So we're out training, and it's the middle of the day, and suddenly an emergency call comes over the emergency radio station, which we always monitor. And there's someone screaming Mayday and saying their boat is sinking, Mayday, help us. Mayday isn't actually the proper term when you're in a boat that's sinking. You know, that's for planes that are going down. So that was incorrect, but, you know, it gets the message out there. Normally, it's the Coast Guard who would render aid to that type of thing. But then the Coast Guard does come over the channel, and they say that they are, really far away. They give their position. They ask if anyone closer can render aid. So, of course, we let them know we'll take care of it. We pause training and we hit the gas. We start heading that direction. One thing they did good was the captain was giving his coordinates instead of just saying, hey, I'm off the coast of Orange County, which usually is what happens. You know, people just out on boats aren't that skilled, especially in a panicking, crazy situation. But he gave us coordinates, so we're heading to it. So we are getting pretty close to where we think we should see the craft, and we don't see one, so that means it's probably under the water by this time. We throttle down, go as fast as we can. It was, choppy and wavy. So finally we get there, and basically it was a pretty good sized sport fishing yacht, and 3 people had rented it, and the owner of the boat was driving for them to go out fishing. Well, something had happened with the water intake system, and it had taken on water. It took on enough water, so the nose of the craft went straight up, and then the whole boat went straight down into the water. You know, boats, especially sport boats for rent, there's tons of flotation all over those things. You know, the cushions are made to float, so you can grab one. There's usually life jackets stashed places. So you have the boat with just slightly a little bit still up out of the water. You have all this stuff around that's floating, but these 4 people who are panicked out of their minds and probably in a lot of shock. I mean, being a couple of miles out from shore and, your boat going down, these people probably thought they were going to die, so they were kind of out of their minds. They're all holding on to the boat. These 4 people are holding on to that 10 inches of boat. These are untrained civilians. We don't want to put our boats very close to them. It could be dangerous. So we try and get them to, we start calling out to them, hey, swim out to us. Grab some of these things. These people are in such shock, they can't even speak. They're just holding on to that boat, staring at us with this look of terror in their eyes. We split up and kind of surround the craft. Because we were on a training thing, we didn't have a lot of people on the craft, just 1 person driving per boat. My craft, basically it was just the 2 of us, and the other boat had 3 guys on it. So we get as close as we can to these people, and we start trying to get them up into the boats. So I grab one guy, and he's like a 14-year-old kid, scrawny little guy, no problem, yank him up out of the water. The next guy I grab is an older gentleman, but he's also like very small, so no problem, pull him up out of the water. The other boat's trying to get the other 2. So they've got 1 guy out of the craft. He was also a smaller guy. Like I said, there's 3 guys on that boat, so 1 driving, 2 guys were available to pull the people up. So 1 guy's in. The second one is a very large guy. He ended up being the owner of the boat, but he was really big. I mean, he was at least 300 pounds. So I look at my 2 teammates over there, and of course, these are special operatives. They're in shape. They're in extremely good shape, and they're struggling to get this guy up out of the water. They cannot lift this dude. being on a boat, you're bent over at a horrible angle. You can't get leverage or anything. So I tell to my guy driving, I say, hey, they're struggling over there, so launch me over there. So I get to the back of the boat, and these craft we use are extremely maneuverable. We can spin them like a top. So he spins it and sends the back end moving fast towards him. So it launches me across, and I land on the other boat. And so I jump on the other two guys, and we all heave this big, heavy dude up onto the boat. And so we got them all up, we pull away, we start making pace to meet up with the Coast Guard to hand them off. Now, I'm trying to render first aid to these people, but still, they're all in such shock that none of them could speak. We're trying to like figure out if they have any issues, if they're hurt anywhere. None of them say a word. So we're almost to the Coast Guard, and I talk to the guy who owned the boat captain. I say, hey man, you might end up on the news or something. You know, people are gonna ask you who came out and saved you guys. When that happens, you tell him it was Swick. And he's still in kind of shock, but he's like, oh, okay, man, all right. And so we meet up with the Coast Guard, we hand him off, we finish our training that day, we go back to the place we were staying that night, and we're watching the news, and there it is. They're talking about what happened, and they're gonna bring the boat captain on and talk about it. I was like, oh, here it is. Here it is. This is our moment. This guy's gonna tell everybody who saved him. So they ask him, oh, what happened, yada yada, and he says, well, my boat sank, and the Coast Guard saved us.
Coast Guard? Coast Guard again?
And so, yeah, everyone's throwing their bottles at the TV. He ruined it. He ruined it. We almost got some recognition. I got a pat on the back. I got a pat on the back for it, so that was enough.
On the next episode of Sea Story.
This is real life. Every single time you get called out there, you're going to see something of this magnitude.
Sea Story is brought to you by America's Navy. Learn more at Navy.com.